Hi everybody, this is Jeff, the founder of the Virtual EMDR Eye Movement Therapy Program. In this video, we're going to talk about how to use EMDR when you're working on issues surrounding childhood trauma. We get a lot of emails about this from people, and we get this question all the time, so I wanted to do a video and offer some tips on how to best do this. As always, before we get started, I want to talk about what exactly EMDR is. EMDR means eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. I prefer to just call it eye movement therapy because it's more simple that way. It's a therapy that's been around for 30 plus years and has been used on hundreds of thousands of people by tens of thousands of therapists. Initially, this form of therapy was started with military veterans who were struggling with trauma and PTSD, but since then it's opened up so that EMDR is being used for things like depression, anxiety, grief and loss, fears and phobias, and even addictions. Virtual EMDR, that's my company, is an online self-guided EMDR program that you can do without needing a therapist. All you need to do is sit down and put on some headphones and get in front of your computer or tablet, and you can do some sessions on your own. So with that being said, let's get started talking about how to use EMDR for childhood trauma. Normally when you do EMDR, you focus on one particular problem or issue at a time. In EMDR therapy, this is called a target. And when you do EMDR focused on childhood trauma, you want to target some of the worst things that happened to you in your childhood. So this could be abuse that you suffered by a family member, a sibling, a parent. It could be growing up with someone who's mentally ill or who's an addict, or any other of the worst things that can happen to people during their childhood, which cause them to have trauma and PTSD symptoms in adulthood. So one of the things that I cannot suggest enough for people, whether you're doing in-person EMDR with a therapist or if you're using the virtual EMDR program, is to figure out exactly what you want to work on. And the way to do this, the best way to do this, is to get out a piece of paper and a pen and start writing down all of the incidents that you can think of from your childhood that you may think are bothersome enough that you want to do some work on them with EMDR now that you're an adult. Now, one of the signs of something that you should be focusing on is that even though your childhood is, decades behind you, the thing that happened to you in childhood is still bothering you now. You might be having intrusive bad memories about it, flashbacks, anxiety, or other unwanted negative emotions related to these things that happened to you in childhood. So if you write them all down on a piece of paper, it's really going to be helpful because it's going to give you a clear roadmap of some of the things that you want to work on, and then you can choose which of the items on the list you want to do an EMDR session focusing on. One of the things that we hear from people all the time is that they don't remember a lot of the specific details of what happened to them in their childhood, but they know that something happened because of how it makes them feel now in adulthood. And one of the things that we suggest when this happens is you can do an EMDR session or more than one EMDR session targeting those feelings. So it doesn't so much matter if you remember the specific incidents in childhood. Instead, try to get in touch with that anxiety that you feel, that fear that you feel when you just think about your childhood in general. Or you can think about some of the emotions that you have now that are uncomfortable that you think are related to your childhood. So again, if you don't remember specific incidents from your childhood that you think you can focus on in EMDR sessions, go ahead and instead just focus on the feelings. One of the other things I wanted to say to you, and this is something that we advise to our virtual EMDR coaching clients, is that you can do an EMDR session or a virtual EMDR session which focuses on your childhood home. And in that session, what you do is, for targeting, you think about the specific details of the house you grew up in or the houses you grew up in. So imagine walking through the front door. Remember the color of the carpet or the textures or the wood paneling or the wallpaper. Remember the closet downstairs where your mother may have kept her coats and other things, and her shoes and her snow boots. Remembering those little details and walking yourself through them, one of the things that can happen with EMDR is it will open up other memories, and you'll start to remember other details of things that happened to you in your childhood, and then you can do more EMDR sessions on those things that you now remember, but that you didn't remember until you did the childhood home walkthrough session. Working through your childhood trauma issues using EMDR will have a cumulative effect. Now, what that means is you might work on a particular incident where something happened with your alcoholic father and maybe your parents were fighting or something like that, and that will cause you not only to feel better about that incident, but a related incident. For example, the time where your alcoholic father was bullying or abusing your siblings in front of you. A lot of the traumatic things from our childhoods tend to be interlinked. So when we work on one thing, we improve on all of the other things that sort of fit into the same basket. You should quickly find that with doing a handful of EMDR sessions focused on your childhood trauma, that you'll start to feel a lot better. There'll still be bad memories from your childhood. Those will never be good memories to think about, the way that you were abused or some of the things that you went through. But the bad memories won't bother you so much. They'll have the volume turned down on them, or they'll lose their charge. And that's the way that EMDR works. So if you just get to work and do some of the sessions and follow an EMDR plan, you should get a lot of relief from all the stuff that happened to you in your childhood. So that's basically the advice that I have on using EMDR for childhood trauma. And for what it's worth, this advice comes from hundreds of emails and tens of thousands of sessions that my company Virtual EMDR has provided. I get emails from people all the time which say how grateful they are for the Virtual EMDR program and how it's helped them with childhood trauma. And often these emails will have these little tips or tricks, which I really appreciate, by the way, that are sent to us by our clients that actually help us improve the process of using EMDR for childhood trauma. So these things that I'm talking to you about in this video, they really work. If you go ahead and apply yourself, if you do the things that I'm suggesting, if you do the EMDR sessions, you'll find yourself starting to feel a lot better. So that's everything that I have. It would be helpful to us if you would like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching this video.